You're listening to Plants and Politics with Gina Bonanno Lemos. If you're ready to hear the truth about both sides of the aisle, what's really going on in America, and how big money interests prevent change to keep you sick, broke, and desperate, then play on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Plants and Politics. This is Gina. So I've been reporting a couple of stories about Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, also Donald Trump's involvement. If you haven't heard those podcasts or watched them on YouTube, please go back and review. So it'll give you a little bit of basis for this. But just to kind of sum up, Ghislaine Maxwell is the longtime girlfriend and supposedly a co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein, the very well-known and infamous child trafficker who allegedly, quote unquote, committed suicide in prison last year after being arrested finally for his crimes and seemingly was going to face real consequences for the first time in his life. Anyway, so she has been picked up. She was arrested recently. I did a whole video on why I really believe Jeffrey Berman was just ousted from his position in the Southern District of New York and how that's related to her arrest. So I encourage everybody to go back and listen to that. So Ghislaine is due to be in court this coming Tuesday in the Manhattan Federal Court, to be more precise. And her attorney is arguing for a $5 million bail. So she's being held in custody in New York. She is on suicide watch, of course, after what happened to Epstein. All of her bedding and clothes have been removed. She is wearing paper clothing. I would imagine that it's very much like what women are given when they go in for their OBGYN visits every year. So men have no clue what that's like, but we do. Not comfortable, but she deserves so much more. So prosecutors are saying that she is worth more than $20 million. She has tons of resources. This woman could take off at a moment's notice. And currently, the only charges she's facing right now are based on the testimony of three women who allege that during the period of 1994 to 1997, Maxwell had lured them in and subjected them to sexual assault as minors. So Ghislaine Maxwell is trying to get the court to allow her to go into home confinement with electronic monitoring. One of the main reasons she's using for this is the COVID-19 virus. I find that laughable, considering that the president is trying to force schools into reopening. So, apparently it's okay and it's safe for kids to go back to school and be on top of each other. And infect each other, but it's not okay for someone who assaulted children to be in prison. So this is what her attorney had to say. This is a direct quote. It says, Epstein died in federal custody, and the media focus quickly shifted to our client, wrongly trying to substitute her for Epstein, even though she'd had no contact with Epstein for more than a decade, had never been charged with a crime or been found liable in any civil litigation, and has always denied any allegations of claimed misconduct. Just unbelievable, right? So he claims that she wasn't trying to hide, she's not a flight risk. He said that her low profile was due to intense media scrutiny and threats on her life, and that she had to hire personal security. Okay. So let's break this down. First of all, there are many women who have come forward in other areas alleging that not only did Ghislaine Maxwell assist Epstein, not only was she out luring and enticing girls back to his quote unquote parties or with the promise of a modeling and acting career, but that she also took part in the actual sexual assault of these minors. And remember, these were girls as young as 11 who have been reported to have been taken to his island on his private jet. So they were all minors, all underage, could not give consent. This was rape. This is child rape. And not only did they allegedly rape these children themselves, they marketed them to disgusting, sick fuck pedophiles. They were trafficking these girls all over the world and making money off of it, according to news reports, according to allegations. Now, one of Epstein's accusers showed in an email exchange that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were in contact as recently as 2015. They showed a series of email exchanges regarding legal advice. So for her attorney to say she had no contact with Epstein for more than a decade is just a flat out lie, according to the evidence at hand. They also are planning to argue that because of the unbelievable plea deal that Epstein received in 2007, that she should not be subject to criminal prosecution. So for anybody listening who doesn't know, in 2007, Epstein was given a plea deal when they had, by all accounts, several dozen women, several dozen victims, alleged victims, who were willing to testify that Epstein and Maxwell, apparently, but primarily I think that the charges were being brought against Epstein. They were going to testify against him that he had either personally sexually assaulted them or that he had basically pimped them out and trafficked them to other pedophiles. Alex Acosta, who was Trump's labor secretary more recently, and he was forced to resign over this. At the time, he was the U.S. attorney in Miami, in the Miami area, which is where many of these crimes took place. Epstein had a home in Florida. So they struck a deal that was so outrageous, that was so egregious, that it more recently came under scrutiny. It just ignited this huge firestorm in Congress and with the courts. But what essentially they did was, rather than charging Epstein, and you can go back and listen more, as I said, to the other podcasts I did that go into more detail, but in a nutshell, they allowed Epstein to plead guilty to only 2 state charges of soliciting underage girls. Not child prostitution, not trafficking of minors, just these 2 state charges. So because he pleaded guilty, rather than taking it to court, going through an actual trial and getting a verdict against him, they gave him only a 13-month sentence in jail. And of that 13 months, he was allowed out on work release every day for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, because they said he had to work. So he was only in jail at night and 1 day out of the week. And even when he was in jail, he was housed in a private wing of the jail with his own personal security. But beyond that, and this is where Ghislaine Maxwell is trying to get off on these charges, his co-conspirators, as part of that agreement, as part of that plea agreement, his co-conspirators were granted total immunity from prosecution. It's unbelievable. It's insane. Why? Why were his co-conspirators, first of all, not named, but secondly, why were they granted immunity? We all know why. I mean, anyone with half a brain knows why. It's because his clients, these pedophiles, were some of the wealthiest, well-known, well-connected people in the world, not just the United States, in the world, because he trafficked these girls all over the place, right? I mean, Prince Andrew has been named as one of the pedophiles, and now they've got him under lock not allowing him to talk to the press, not allowing him to be interviewed by the FBI. The royal family basically kicked him to the curb. So they've got him hidden away so that he can't talk, so that, he can't be interviewed by the FBI at all and get to the bottom of his part in all this. I mean, it's so obvious. If he had nothing to hide, he wouldn't be hiding out. He would come forward. He would talk. I mean, there's even pictures of him with one of these girls who has made the allegations against him. And in the picture is also Ghislaine Maxwell. So Ghislaine Maxwell is saying, well, I can't be prosecuted because that plea deal that Epstein received said none of his associates, none of his co-conspirators would be prosecuted. Well, okay, first, let's look at that. First of all, that was in Florida. That wasn't a national case. It wasn't a federal case. That was a state case. So that doesn't apply to any crimes that she allegedly committed in other parts of the world or other states even. And many of these girls are alleging that she committed these crimes or assisted in these crimes in New York, which is why the Southern District of New York is the one prosecuting her right now. So that wouldn't apply, as far as I know. Second, if she's innocent, why would it apply to her? Right? This plea deal said that Epstein's co-conspirators would not be charged. She's saying she's innocent. Well, then prove that you're in. I mean, are you admitting that you're one of his co-conspirators, that you're one of the associates that took part in this? Is that what you're saying? You can't have it both ways. You can't say I'm innocent, but then say, well, his co-conspirators were granted immunity. Which is it? So this whole thing is just so gross. It just turns the stomach. And this woman needs to pay the price for the things that she did. I mean, there's a woman who has come forward who has said that she was raped by Ghislaine Maxwell, not just Epstein, but also by Ghislaine Maxwell between 20 and 30 times when she was a young girl. I believe she was about 14 years old when this took place. It's beyond comprehension, the depravity and just the absolute vile nature of these crimes. And these women have been harmed for the rest of their life. Some of them will never be the same. They will never have normal relationships. They will never have a normal life because they are so just traumatized and completely, to put it plainly, fucked up by what took place, what happened to them when they were children. So she needs to pay. She should not be allowed out on this $5 million bail. She has more than enough money. And beyond her, beyond just what she has, the people who they serviced, right, these pedophiles all over the world, have protected them. That's how Epstein got such a minor charge and such a tiny little slap on the wrist, because they have evidence. We know from reporting that they have evidence against all of these sick motherfuckers, all of these vile pedophiles who harmed these children and violated them. So they have video, they have all kinds of evidence that they've been holding over the heads of these pedophiles. You don't think that many of them, if not all of them, would be more than happy to make her disappear? I mean, that's why she's on quote unquote suicide watch. They're not worried about her committing suicide. They're worried about somebody else murdering her, as I fully believe Jeffrey Epstein was murdered, and making it look like a suicide. Because there are a lot of people out there with a whole lot to lose if she is deposed, if she is now facing 30 years in prison, the rest of her life in prison. She's going to talk. She's going to sing like a canary, and they know it. So there's tons of people out there who with so many resources, with so much money, that would make it very easy for her to disappear for the rest of her life and never be brought to justice. So hell no. Hell no, this woman should never, ever, ever be allowed outside of that prison. If it's good enough for children to go back to school, then you sit your ass in jail and you wait for your trial. That's my thought. So, like always, just my opinion, but I think I'm right. So, anyway, guys, that is the update. When I hear more, and after Tuesday, I will bring you an update on this case, and let's hope that she even makes it to Tuesday and makes it to all the other court dates. So, as always, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.